What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. Hey, want to talk to you today about dealing with loss. And, I don't want to wade into the territory of dealing with, really heavy loss like losing a loved one or something like that, although I think similar types of rules. But I really wanted to kind of talk about how we deal with loss in terms of, financially when we lose our way a little bit, sometimes when we evaporate our savings sometimes when we've worked really hard on financial goals and it's a one step forward, two steps back kind of a deal. And I know that it can be really deflating for people. It can really turn some people against kind of the financial progress they're making, and it's not always just the finances, it's not always just the money, but it is the emotional toll that it takes. It is the kind of the psychological toll. It can be difficult on individuals and families and couples and things like that. And the way I think about this, or the story that I want to share with you, comes from my high school days. I played tennis in high school for a year, and I remember being in this tournament, and I was playing doubles, and me and my partner were falling pretty far behind. We lost the first set, and we were losing the second set. And I won't get into the scoring of tennis, but it's a little bit like volleyball. You actually have to win by 2 points. And so it's the first one to four wins. And then if you get to four and it's tied, you actually have to win by two. So you have to win 6 points to win your little tennis match. And the problem was we just weren't doing well. And we were down basically 4 points, 40 love. And me and my partner were really uh, dejected. And one of the things that my coach at the time did is he called us to the fence. And I think it was one of those really good moments where, he was a good tennis player, but it was just one of those guys that was giving me a life lesson. And he was like, listen, stop focusing on the match, the set, the tournament. Just focus on the next point. Just focus on winning the next point. That's it. And we did that, and to be honest, one, I think it was kind of comforting knowing that he wasn't calling us over to say, listen, you got to come through on this. It didn't really matter. We weren't the greatest tennis players. My school was certainly not ultra competitive in tennis by any means, but it helped me kind of refine my thinking when it comes to things that seem rather daunting. And now I know that when we talk about eating the elephant and things like that, we kind of break it down. But one of the things that that lesson taught me was not only are we breaking it down, but we're limiting our focus. And the value of limiting the focus is that sometimes, one, we displace what we've lost. So if we think about this as a hardship that befalls you, let's say you have worked all year long to save up $1,000. It was tough. It was $80 here, it was $20 here, it was $100 here, $60, $5, whatever. You scrimped and you saved and you sacrificed and you did all these things and you finally got to that $1,000 savings. And then boom, just like that, the transmission breaks on your car and it's $1,000 repair and the savings is gone. It is one of those things where I've told people, listen, this is what you saved for. This was so that this was an inconvenience, but it wasn't an emergency. But it kind of rings a little hollow sometimes when you're talking to people about money, and that is the point, but when it represents a massive amount of investment and sacrifice, and it can be very emotional for people. And I've been there myself, right? Recently in long history, and far back, and things like that. And it's not just always about money, but this is kind of what I'm translating it to, that it can be really hard for people because they look at how much effort it took them to get to, say, $1,000, and then how quickly they lost it. And the problem here is that when you say, hey, okay, we'll save it again, they look at all of the work they did. They look at everything that they kind of endured to get there. And it can be very daunting and it can be dejecting. And they don't want to necessarily try again because they know how much work it took the first time. And so, again, it's kind of like my coach saying, let's just focus on the next point, right? So, what can we do? And to me, it's about limiting the focus. Yes, what's the next step that we can take? But let's just focus on that, right? Let's not even talk about reinflating the savings back to $1,000. Let's not even talk about that ultimate goal. Let's just talk about the next goal and what we can do to make that next bite sized goal manageable, and not super painful. And let's maybe say, hey, it's $10. Let's take the next 2 weeks and see if we can save $10, right? Maybe you sandbag, maybe you set the threshold really low. And let's just focus on that so that it's not something like, well, why save $10? That's $990 more to go. Let's eliminate that. Let's think on the next point only. And I think one that'll help people stop thinking about kind of the daunting goal ahead of them, but then also give them some hope and help them realize that that next step isn't going to be that hard. So that's kind of one of my techniques that one I personally use when you take a 2 steps back. Maybe it's not 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Maybe it's 1 step forward, 5 steps back, or 10 steps back. I mean, it can be like that. That is just the nature of life, that not everything is fair, that sometimes things suck, that sometimes you get gut punched or sucker punched and you don't deserve it. And despite doing all the right things, it'll just happen. But it's the way things go. And what I want is that um, a method, kind of a tactic for us to get back up on our horse, 1 foot in each of the stirrups, saddle up, take a next step, and not worry about the whole path, just the next thing that we have to do. So hopefully that will help you like it's helped me, but also help us when we're working with clients who may be in that situation and not just saying, hey, we'll get that $1,000 back. Not to necessarily just reinforce this huge goal that we're going to undertake again, but say, hey, let's focus, breathe deep, and look at the next thing we need to do. So hopefully that helps. I'll see you later.